Cool, no problem. Unc, I got you. I trust you. Appreciate you, homie. So I go, get on the plane, get on out to Oregon, and the first thing I'm made aware of is I'm not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. What's up? How you doing? Welcome back to A Moment in Time with yours truly, Aaron Thomason. I'm super excited that you're with me, but you know my question. Did you give this to 3 people? Did you bring somebody with you? Did you put the big fella to work for you? All right. So listen, you know it. Clarity breeds confidence. And clarity breeds confidence if we can understand who we are, where we are, and ultimately where we want to go. Because then we can take the next step in the direction of our goals and our dreams on the path for sustainable success with clarity and confidence. All right. So we've been talking a little bit this week about how we process information and how we can be the bottle rocket moments and get frustrated because we haven't moved forward. And we talked about a very simple process in which our brains go through as adults is being able to be aware of what the new truths and new information, how we then begin to unpack them, then we process them, and then we apply them. And then kind of going through that loop and how it gives us an opportunity for consistent and intentional learning that allows for us to transform our lives one step at a time in the direction of our goal. So I want to tell you a story. Now, I want you to remember now, this is when I let you know my business, so you got to be gentle. And here's one that I want, I got to think through, that certain things you do when you're young, you don't even realize it's crazy until you actually kind of do it. And then it's like, I don't know, I thought that all the way through. So I want to talk about my opportunity to go play basketball at Oregon State University. And this is less about basketball, but it's more about that transition, right? And so I remember, growing up in Detroit in the 80s and the 90s, it's a certain way that you get down. And I went on a visit to Oregon State and, hey, cool place, love the players, love the opportunity to be able to do something different. Boom, let's go. So my uncle fortunately had a friend that lived in Portland, and Oregon State was in Corvallis, and so which is south of Portland. And he said, "Hey, go stay with the family for a week, for a few days before your dorm is ready. Think it'll be good." I said, "Cool, no problem. Unc, I got you. I trust you. Appreciate you, homie." So I go, get on the plane, get on out to Oregon, and the first thing I'm made aware of is I'm not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. I'll tell you why. Because in my whole time growing up in the Detroit metro area, and then going to the metro area for in the suburbs, I had never seen in person a man with green hair wearing a skirt. Now, that awareness for me is like, oh, okay. All right, this is different. Now, remember now, this is 1995, right? So this ain't what we dealing with now, which seems to be a lot normal. I'm getting off the plane, and this is the first thing I see. I'm like, okay, awareness. I'm unpacking what I'm seeing. I'm processing. I don't even know that I'm really processing. All I know is the application was, you can't do what you did in Detroit because you ain't in Detroit, my friend. You on the West Coast and you in the Pacific Northwest, and clearly they got different rules out here. So govern yourself accordingly. All right. So that's the first thing. Then I transition down eventually to campus. And guess the first thing I'm trying to figure out? I ain't trying to figure out where my book's at. I ain't trying to get my room. I'm not trying to get, my class schedule. I ain't trying to figure none of that stuff out. What I'm trying to figure out is where I'm laying my head. And based on where I'm laying my head, I had a trunk shipped earlier, so I need to figure out where my stuff is and where I'm laying my head. See, one step at a time. Because had I gone out there excited about being in college and being on the West Coast and I'm on the basketball team and going all this, and I've been going all that stuff, and I tried to take on everything at one time, that's how people get overwhelmed and go home. All I wanted to do was, where's my trunk with my stuff? Where's my room? And I took it from one step at a time. And after I figured out my room and my housing situation, I figured out, okay, can I get back? What place on campus? How do I walk? You figure that piece out. Then you figure out the places where to eat. And then they tell you got to go get your classes. So you figure that piece out. And then you start figuring out each step by step. So by the time I left Oregon State, they actually thought I had been there for a little bit. Because I knew my classes were, I knew my food was, I knew my dorm was, I knew how to get to practice, I knew where this facility was. I knew it, but I put the picture together one step at a time. And here's what I want you to understand is, why was I as a freshman okay with putting together the picture one step at a time, one piece at a time, to get a bigger picture on how to thrive at Oregon State? It's because I knew I didn't know anything. And the more I was aware of what I didn't know, the more it just said, just take one step. Just take one piece and put this in the picture. What do you need to do to survive today? Y'all not going to class for the next two weeks? They telling you that the registrar is not even open yet. So figure out where you're going to lay your head and where you're going to eat. That's it. You can figure out the other stuff later. This is what trips us up. This is why we can't move forward with passion, excitement, commitment, and focus on the goals, on the journey towards our goals, is because we are trying to do everything at once. And guess what? Time ain't working against you. But time will work against you if you keep having moments. You keep getting started and crashing. It's only so much your psyche can keep taking that before your psyche finally says, I don't trust you, I'm not doing it again, and you find a way to just be more comfortable about where you are. And a lot of you all aren't comfortable where you are. But you're still trying to figure out, how can I clear the trees? How can I clear the fog and figure out how to take that next step? Because you're hoping that if you figure out how to take that next step, and if that next step gives you a different level of clarity, that now you get a different result, makes you aware that this thing is going to happen, guess what you're going to do? You're going to take the next step. But I need you to break it down in steps. Because as long as you're trying to accomplish everything at one time, you physically can't do it. I'm sure most of you all are in a point in your life where you don't have the energy or the capacity to do what you used to. Yeah. Maybe you got kids in the house going crazy. You ain't got the energy or the time to do it like you used to. Maybe you're a little bit older. You ain't got the energy or the time to do it like you used to. Maybe you got some other things on your plate, what you grinding or building a business. You ain't got the energy or the time to do it like you used to. So in order for you to be transformative in the life that you ultimately want to live, you gotta take one step at a time. When you take one step at a time, as if that's the only step to take, then you don't get overwhelmed when you're processing. You don't get overwhelmed when you're unpacking. You don't get overwhelmed by the emotions that awareness causes. You don't get overwhelmed by the application to what you're trying to do. You understand that I'm taking it one step at a time. And if I roll enough of these steps together, what's in my mind, for what I believe, what's in my heart and my spirit, can ultimately be the life that I ultimately lead and live. And just like that kid in Oregon, I knew at some point I would be able to connect and be with the student body as if I had been there my whole time. If I was a sophomore, a senior, as a veteran on campus, I knew I could do it. But in order to get there, I had to take one step. First step was get yourself on the plane. Next step was figure out where you're going to lay your head, and so on and so on and so on. And instead of having crash moments, we can have consistency, keep ascending, and ultimately we're going to get to a point where we'll level off, where we'll be able to cruise in altitude and it's easier to start moving forward when you do that. I'm excited. I'm excited about you taking the next step. I'm excited about you moving forward. So here's what I want you to do. The next step I want you to do is whatever step you left off on. If you were processing this week, now I need you to go to application, because I only wanted you to take one step between Monday and Wednesday. So now I want you to take another step between now and the weekend. Wherever you were on that journey, remember the 4 steps: awareness, unpacking, processing, applying. Wherever you are, take that next step. Just take that next step. And as you take that next step, I want you to put in the comments for me and tell me what's the next step you're taking. That's all I want you to do. You ain't got to tell all your business. Just tell the next step that you're on, that you're doing. And as you're doing that, I need you to give us 3 people who you know need to take the next step. 3 people that you know need to be better about what's going on. I need you to do that for me. And if you can do that and put me to work for you, we will ultimately start seeing people transformed by taking the things out of their mind to be the reality that they live in, because they took the next step in confidence in the direction of their goals. I'm excited. Do me a favor. Remember this. Just because you started out on this journey to get better, it doesn't mean that you weren't already good. So until next time, I'll see you then.